Welcome to Mediocre Gaming, and today we're playing Destiny 2. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and salutations. Today, it's a pyramid full of X. Let's get to it. The Pyramidion is one of the Nightfall options in the current week. And if you're going to go for the score for the Pyramidion, you will need to get at least 100,000 points when you finish. What do you need to do in order to get that 100,000 points? You're going to want to use the challenge card. You're going to want to set up a Singe, either Solar, Arc, or Void, depending on what your particular strategy is, whether you're going to use subclasses with that particular element or power weapons. You're going to want to use Blackout. You're going to want to use Extinguish, and you're going to want to use Match Game. Now, you don't have to use Match Game. You can use Attrition, or you can use Momentum, but it will make it a little bit more difficult because the score multiplier boost from Attrition and Momentum isn't as high as Match Game. So keep that in mind. Also, you're going to want to use the power handicap to bring your lowest level player from 550, 560, 600, whatever it happens to be, down to 540. So if you're at 540, you're not going to use power handicap. If your lowest player on your fire team is 560, then you can use a power handicap of 20, and so on and so forth. So if your strategy is to use power weapons that match the Singe, then you're going to want to use energy weapons that are of one type, different than your power weapon, and then your subclass of the third. That way that you're able to damage all enemies with all shield types. And you're going to want to have different energy weapon elements than at least one other person on your fire team. So if two people on your fire team have arc energy weapons, then you're going to want a void energy weapon. If everyone has void energy weapons, you're going to want at least one person on your fire team with a arc. And that's assuming that you all have solar power weapons. So set it up however you're most comfortable with and your fire team's most comfortable with, and continue with that. So if two of you are going to have power weapons of solar and you're using solar Singe, but the third member is using a solar subclass because they're more comfortable doing it that way, it's more likely to work if you're comfortable with what you're using versus something that you're not comfortable using. All right, so for our setup, we use Solar Singe. We're using Sleeper Simulants on all three characters. As such, some of us are using arc subclasses, some are void subclasses, just so that we have ways to damage all energy types. Your energy weapon is the easiest way to damage enemies with a particular element of shield versus using your grenade or melee. And if you're using Blackout, then you don't want to be too close to the enemies no matter what. Now, because you're going for the score, you're going to want to kill as many enemies as possible, as quickly as possible. In the beginning of the Nightfall, this will be difficult to do because you only have the weapons and ammo and abilities that you start off with. So grenade, melee, energy weapon, power weapon, and energy weapon. So you'll have to choose between those to take out enemies efficiently. You don't want to hit the power weapon and use all of your ammo on your power weapon and then go through and not be able to find heavy ammo. Now, if you do have armor with heavy ammo finder on it, you are more likely, much more likely to get heavy ammo drops from enemies. Same thing with special ammo finder if you're using a sniper rifle. So do make sure that you are using your ammo wisely and that you have armor perks that will help you out, if at all possible. Because it is earlier in the Forsaken cycle, it may be difficult to have those armor perks on it, but if you do have them, certainly use them. Now, as you go along, after about 3 or 4 minutes, you should have your super up. Now, when you get to a group of enemies that is of decent size, you're going to have one member of your fire team, whoever gets their super first, or if you all have your super, then you'll have to decide between the 3 of you who is going to use their super first on the group of enemies. And when that happens, you will want to have 2 of your players taking out the shields on any non-aligned enemies. So if your team member is using an arc super and the enemies have a void shield, use a void weapon to take out those shields. Because with the match game, it will be very difficult for the person using a super to take out any enemies with shields. They will use their entire super just trying to take out the shield of one enemy. So they'll make some orbs. If you don't have your super yet, that'll be an excellent way for you to get your super when you get to your next encounter, or if you still have a group of enemies in front of you, then you can use your super. So make sure to determine an order of supers. Say, oh, okay, Buddy A is going to use his super first, then I'm going to use mine, and then Buddy B is going to use their super last, and then we're just going to rotate depending on who gets their super back first. Now, you do use Extinguish in these matches, Nightfall matches, because it is a big score booster, and if you all wipe in a respawn restricted area, you will have to restart because you will take a big score hit. Likewise, Blackout is a major score booster, and it makes it much more difficult because you have no radar and enemy melees do a lot of damage. They will either 1 or 2 shot you. And most of the time when you're trying to melee an enemy, it'll take 2 or 3 hits. So in the time it takes you to take 3 swings at them, they'll knock you out. Even if you're at full health. So go through, whenever you get to a group of enemies, take out their shields, take them out. If you have a group, use your super or have one of your other fire team members use their super to take out the enemies. Faster you can take out the enemies, the faster you can get to the next encounter, and you can boost your score that much faster. So good communication is key to make sure that you are getting through these encounters quickly and get to the boss in time. You will want to run through the areas that don't have a lot of enemies as quickly as possible and keep an eye on the time, knowing how much time there is left between you and the boss, or an estimate of the time. Because once you get to 15 minutes, you'll start to lose your score and your multiplier, either entirely or greatly reduced score multiplier. So you'll want to have a large, or as large of a score as possible by the time you hit 15 minutes if you're not at the boss, or at least over 100,000 when you get to the boss and take him out if you're close to 15 minutes. And once you take out the boss, then you're done. And then you can see what your score is. And hopefully you have enough score to hit that 100,000 mark. Now in the Pyramidion, there are several encounters where you have to take out all or most of the enemies in an area. So the first encounter, you have to take all the enemies out before the door opens. Another encounter, before they'll let the portal open, you have to take out all the enemies. Another encounter, you have to stand on all 3 altars to activate them before the door will open and the portal will open. You have to hack all 4 confluences before you can open the portal to the boss area. So there are a lot of kind of bottlenecked points where you are locked out. You can't run through, and you don't really want to run through these areas. You want to do as much damage and get as big of a score as you can before you hit the boss. Because once you get to the boss, you will want to not feel rushed, although you will be rushed because you only have a certain amount of time. So get as much score as you can before you hit the boss. If you're getting close to that 15-minute marker, hopefully you are close to getting to the boss, and then you can power down the boss and take him out quickly. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to ring the bell before you leave to be notified of all future episodes as soon as they go live. And thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And we'll see you next time.